You want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day? My book, The Mirror Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you.
Straight all day.
You're now tuned in to the best show in the world. This is the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you have expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is the go-getter energy that moves you, me, and anyone else out there to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And what we do here, what I'm going to do for you here today, is take all of that and put it into one package. And what you're going to get is the mindset, the method, the philosophy. There's even a book, and they're all under the same name. It's the same name as this show. It is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and I welcome you here to the show. Today's topic, we're going to talk about your options whenever you are facing unfair situations in life. Now this one, man, there's so many different people I could be making this for. So we're just going to say this for anyone who's listening to this. There's a reason why you're listening to it. You saw the topic and you decided to start listening because you probably have, or maybe you are facing an unfair situation right now in life. And if you haven't and you're not right now, you probably will at some point in your life be dealing with a situation in life that is just unfair. Let's give a definition of this word unfair. It means a lack of equality or justice. You ever felt like there was a lack of equality, a lack of justice in something that you happen to be involved in that was really pissing you off or bothering you in some way, and you were trying to figure out what to do about it? For the athletes out there, I've talked on this subject many times over the years because, especially coming from a sport like basketball, where, the thing about the sport of basketball is so many people think they can play. Unlike baseball or football or hockey, everybody thinks they either can play basketball or they know exactly how basketball is supposed to be played. So even the people who can't play, they're on the sidelines talking about how to play. They know it if they can't do it. That's the one thing about basketball that makes it different from every other sport out there. And in basketball, since it's a team sport, and since everybody thinks they can play or they know how the game's supposed to be played, many athletes, especially in the amateur ranks, often would present to me problems that they're having with their coaches, such as, I believe I should be playing more and I'm not playing. Or my son or my brother believes they should be playing more, or my boyfriend or my husband believes they should be getting playing time or they should be on the team, but they're not because... And it always comes back to the decision maker on a basketball team, which is the coach. The coach is playing favorites. The coach is, I missed practice and I didn't get in the game at all. This other kid missed practice and he started in the game and got to play the whole game. So why is this unfair situation happening? It's unfair that the coach didn't put me on the team just because I'm not friends with the coach the way everybody else's dad is friends with the coach. That's an unfair situation. I was dominating in tryouts and I outplayed some of the players who were already on the basketball team, but they made the team and I didn't make the team, even though I was the best player in the gym. That's an unfair situation, Dre. I've had people presenting me these challenges for over 10 years. So I've talked about unfairness a lot from the sports angle, but you may be dealing with unfairness, let's say, in the business world. Because as opposed to the sports world, the business world is often much more subjective. Because at least in sports, we have a scoreboard. In sports, everybody, at the end of all the complaining, the bitching, the unfairness, the politics and everything, everyone has to look up at their scoreboard and see who succeeded and who failed. In the business world, there are maybe a whole lot more different scoreboards. Maybe you already have a salary, so it really doesn't matter to you what the scoreboard is or it isn't, or if there even is a scoreboard for your company that everyone is looking at, because everybody there is getting paid what they're getting paid no matter what happens, at least for a certain period of time. But then you got to deal with office politics. Maybe you're trying to get a job and you feel you're more qualified than another person. You're trying to get a promotion. You feel you're qualified. You're trying to, whatever other things going on in your office or with your organization or within your team. Maybe you're part of a team and you're feeling some things not going right. Maybe you're in charge of a team and you feel some things are not going right. Maybe you feel like the team you've been given is just not balanced with the team that other people have been given, but you're being judged against them as if everything is equal. You're finding that this is unfair. How do you deal with this unfairness that you're going to deal with in life? Maybe you think it's unfair that Donald Trump won the presidency. Maybe you think it's unfair whoever is winning the local political races. Maybe you think it's unfair whoever you're dealing with in your family right now, or what one of your friends is doing, or what someone in, again, your myopic world, in the worlds that we live in, whether it be your family, your community where you live, the place that you work, amongst your friends. There's some type of unfairness going on probably in every aspect of each of our lives at all times. This lack of equality, lack of justice. What the hell can you do about it? I'm going to give you three choices that you have every time, no matter where you are in life, no matter who you are. Every time you face a lack of equality or justice, here are the things that you can do. You have three options and only three. Point number one. Topic once again is your options when facing unfairness. First choice you have is to accept it. Accept the fact that things are just unfair. Life by itself is unfair by design. It's supposed to be unfair. Some of us are tall, some of us are short. Some people are born with privileges. They were just born into the right family, born in the right neighborhood, born to people who knew the right people. And some of us are born into a family where nobody knows anybody. Or you might not even know everybody in your family. You might not have any type of connections. You don't know, nobody you know knows anybody. Nobody who you know knows anybody who knows anybody. And everything that you get, if you're going to end up getting anything in life, you're going to have to get it all from absolute zero, out of the mud, as we said. Where other people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, sometimes literally, they have, well, maybe not literally, it's not a silver spoon in the womb, but you understand what I'm saying. They have everything in place already. All right, their parents are the right people. Their family is already set up. They have all the connections where everything's just going to work for them. All they had to do is not screw it up, and their life is pretty much set. That's pretty unfair, right? Looking at your situation, looking at theirs, that's pretty unfair. It's just what circumstances are. Now, I'm not telling you that this is going to change. I'm telling you this is what it is. You can choose to just accept this as it is, because it is. Being born poor, not having access to certain things that other people have access to, maybe not knowing the right people or not knowing the right people who know the right people, maybe you just being unlucky in some ways, maybe in many ways, and you can just live your life looking through this lens of reality. You can just say, this is the way that life is. This is the way that I'm seeing it. And I don't see it any different. This is just how it's going to be. And I'm just going to accept that this is it. I'm going to have to struggle and strive and fight and claw and scrape to get anything, where other people are just going to have it all handed to them. And that's really not fair. But you know what? I'm just going to accept life as it is. I'm just going to be a realist, so to speak. And this is the way I'm going to live. Now, there are several episodes of this show where I've talked about this angle and what you could possibly do about it. So I'll refer you to these. You take notes on these and you can go listen to these after this is over. Episode 1062, reality is negotiable. Episode number 715, reality, I put it in quotation marks, reality is killing you. Episode number 580, every single moment is a new reality. Episode number 1220, how to manufacture luck. I'm pointing out these episodes for your enrichment, to go check those out after you finish listening to this one. But this is what I need you to understand. When things are unfair in life, you have the option of just allowing things to be that way, and you can just figure out how to live with it. You can figure out how to live within the scope of this unfairness. The fact that you don't have the things that a whole lot of other people have, that you don't have the connections, that you are not as highly favored as some other people are. You don't have things set up for you the way that other people have things set up for you. And I'm not saying this facetiously. I'm saying this straight up. This is a choice that you have. And there are people who are listening to this right now. You've been living your whole life in complete acceptance of this choice. I just gave you a reflection of your life over the last 8 minutes. I'm talking about you. I've described your life right now. Now, I suggest, again, you go listen to those 4 shows that I gave you the numbers to already. Oh, yeah, how to get access to those. Get into the game group with your 2-week free trial by going workonmygame.com/game group. That's the only place you can access those 4 shows. When things are unfair, you can just let it be that way and just figure out how to live with it. All right, you can do that. Everybody clear on that? Point number 2. Today's topic, your options when you are facing unfairness in life, a lack of equality and a lack of justice. Point number 2, here's your second choice. You can quit. Now, when I say quit, I don't necessarily mean quit all of life. I'm not telling you to commit suicide. You can if you want to. I'm not suggesting that you do, but it is an option to you. When I say quit, I mean you can just straight up opt out of the game. Whatever game you're in where things are unfair, you can just stop being involved in that. If you think it's unfair that one of your teammates is not as good as you, but they're playing twice as many minutes as you can just quit the team. If you think it's unfair that you have more talent than the guy who's playing in front of you, you can just stop participating. If you think it's unfair that the woman across the office floor from you got promoted to the managerial position when you think you are more qualified, you have higher credentials, you've done better at your job than that person, but they got promoted and you didn't, you really think that's unfair, you could just quit the company. I mean, you don't have to keep working there. You have the option of opting out of any game that you're involved in. You can go find a place after you opt out. Then you can go find a place where things are more fair in your eyes. If you think things are really fair in one place, you always have the choice of, let me just leave this place and go find a place where things are fair. I mean, that's a choice. I mean, that's a very logical, reasonable, practical thing that you could do. If you can go find a place where everyone has to start at the exact same spot and everything is 100% merit based, that would be great. That'd be great for everybody. Then it would just all come down to skill. It would all come down to performance. There'd be no politics involved, no possibility of unfairness, no subjectivity, no opinions, none of that no background, behind the back stuff that a lot of people don't like. You don't have to deal with all of that if you can find a place where everything is 100% fair, everything is straight up merit based, everything is performance based, and these places do exist. Okay, again, I'm not being facetious with this one either. These places do exist, but they may be kind of hard to find. I'm going to keep it real with you. You may have to look really hard to find one of these places, but they do exist, and I guarantee you they will be 100% fair when you find it. This is an option for you. Just understand you're going to have to do some digging to find these places, and then you might have to do some extra work just to get involved. So this is, if you're looking for this place, what you're looking for, in a way, it's kind of a reflection on the participation trophy culture that we seem to be living in right now. And that people want there to be a completely level playing field for everybody. You're in a situation that is set up unfairly, or you're seeing too many situations that are set up unfairly. You want to avoid them. You want to get away from them. You want to get rid of them. But if you can't get rid of them, the next best thing is to just stay out of them. You can completely opt out of any of these situations where things are not fair. Find a level playing field where everybody has to participate at the same level. Everyone has the same challenges. Everyone has the same problems. They all got to deal with it. You can do this. Okay, understanding that you may have to do some extra digging and some extra work to find it and then to get in it, respectively. It's an option. You can just quit the game. Any game you're in, not going the way that you want it. You're not feeling the coach. You're not feeling your boss. You're not feeling your family. You're not feeling your friends. You're not feeling this volunteer job that you took. You're not feeling the way things are going, and you think it's because things are unfair. They are unjust. There is no justice. There is no equality. Just leave. Just quit. Go somewhere else. Maybe the next place will be unfair too, but it'll be a little bit better. And the next place, then maybe eventually you'll find this place where the fairness is at a level that you can stomach, a level that you can deal with, you can stay at. Maybe not. Maybe you're still in the process of looking, but you can just quit the game. Okay? So you don't have to stick with it. You don't have to stick around. You don't have to be mentally tough. You don't have to do any of that. Just leave the game, go find another spot. Got it? All right, so everybody got our first two options, right? Let's move on to option number 3. Today's topic is your options when you are facing unfairness in life. Here's your third option. First one is to accept it. Second one is to quit. The third one, if the unfairness is against you, you can choose to fight through the unfairness, not accept it, but fight against that unfairness, fight through the unfairness and change that situation by the strength of your own will and determination. That's the third option. But let me give you some more on this third option, because you need to understand this third option from several different angles. Okay, I just gave you one angle, but let me give you another angle by asking you a question. This other angle is still on point number 3, comes in the form of a question. When you heard that today's topic was what to do when unfairness is set against you, your options when you're dealing with unfairness in life, why did you assume that I meant that the unfairness was against you? Let me tell you again the title of the topic. Your options when facing unfairness. That's the title of today's episode. So why did you assume that when I said unfairness, I meant that the unfairness was working against you rather than working for you? I didn't say that when unfairness is against you. I've mentioned it a couple times here as an option because these are the examples that I've heard in life. Very rarely do I have anyone coming to me say, hey, Dre, I got all this unfairness working for me. What should I do about it? I rarely get that question. But why are you assuming that I'm saying the unfairness is against you? I never said it couldn't be in your favor. Let me give you a news flash, something that you may not have thought about before. But I want you to start thinking about right now, and I want you to start thinking actively about this. In other words, how can you actually utilize this information? Not just know it, but utilize it. Not just think about it and appreciate it, but actually put it to action. Here's the news flash. You want unfairness to exist in life. All right, the completely fair life and situation, you don't want that. You want there to be unfairness in life, but let me tell you how you want that unfairness to be set up. You want it to be working for you, not against you. You want life to be unfair in your favor. So, any area of life in which unfairness is working for you, what you need to do is whatever you need to do to keep it there. Keep that unfairness working in your favor. Let me tell you a secret that you might not have considered. If you're listening to me right now, that means you have access to probably some type of data connected device, some type of smart device like a computer or a tablet or a smartphone, right? That means you also have access to either Wi-Fi or some type of data plan. I'm 99% sure you have access to both. That if you're not on Wi-Fi, you still have a data connection, and when you're around Wi-Fi, you have some type of login where you can access that Wi-Fi. Which means, and you're listening to a podcast, okay? You know what that means? 99% of the people in the world do not have those three things. Access to podcasts, smartphone, and access to a data plan. So you already have unfairness working in your favor. You want to go a level deeper than that. I mean, they say for you to even be born, I mean, only one sperm fertilizes the egg, right? Do you know how many failed and died right there on the spot when you made it through? All right, so you've had unfairness work for you in ways, immeasurable ways that you probably couldn't even put into numbers already in your life. But if we make it even on a more simple level, where is unfairness working for you in life? Where in your life? I want you to answer this question. Don't let me tell you everything. You can answer this question for yourself. Where in your life do you have some advantages? Do you have some things set up in your favor that are working for you that other people just don't have, and how hard they try, they just won't have? I 6 inches tall. I grew taller than the average man. Had I not been this height, had I been the height of the average man, which is what, around 5'9", 5'8", I probably would not have become a professional basketball player. That unfairness is working in my favor. Now, I was smart enough, wise enough to take advantage of the unfairness, but even if I hadn't taken advantage of it, had I just been 6'4" and decided to be a computer programmer, that size was giving me an advantage that other people just didn't have. There's probably some 5'4" guy out there who loves basketball, who really could have used the height of somebody who didn't use it, but they didn't have the unfairness working in their favor and their career stopped at high school. That's unfairness. Where's unfairness working in your favor that maybe you haven't been paying attention to, or maybe you've been utilizing it, but you just don't appreciate the fact that you have the unfairness working for you? There will always be unfairness in life. As I already told you, what you want is not to find a way to level the playing field and make it equal for everybody. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You don't have the time or the energy to make it happen, or the talent. What you need to do is utilize the unfairness that's working for you and maximize it. Squeeze all the juice out of that unfairness. I had the size and athleticism to make it unfair for me as a basketball player. It worked in my favor. If I was to be a wrestler, for example, with the same body type, same attributes and everything, with a higher center, with this high center of gravity that I have and these long legs and long arms, it would be unfair against me. I wouldn't do too well as a wrestler. It wouldn't work. Why? Because I chose unwisely to do the wrong thing. It's not that the unfairness is hurting me or working against me. It's just I chose to do the wrong thing with the tools that I have at my disposal. So here's what you need to do on the heels of what I just told you. You need to take a deep assessment of who you are and the tools that you have at your disposal and the tools that you could possibly acquire. Then ask yourself, with these tools or those tools, once they are acquired, where could I position myself to have an unfair advantage over everyone else? These are the questions that you need to be asking yourself on a daily basis. And when you get the answers to these questions, then you need to act on them. And this is how you make yourself stand out in life. I have the skill from years of practice, from some natural talents, from some things that I like to do, from the way that I think, the abilities that I have, the abilities that I've honed over the years. I have a skill. I have an oratory skill. I like to get in front of an audience of people, whether that be a virtual audience, like there's nobody in the room with me right now while I'm recording, but I know there are thousands of people who are going to listen to what I'm recording right now, and or watch what I'm recording right now, or read something that I've been writing today. That's my skill. This is one of my abilities. I could say is a gift / talent, but it's also a skill because I worked on it at the same time that I had some natural abilities for it. If someone else wants to go head up against me when it comes to getting on a mic or in front of a camera or writing something down, I'll take that challenge. Why? Because I have an unfair advantage there. I know I put the time in. I know I have the talent. I know I have the ability. I know I have something to say. All of those give me an unfair advantage against somebody else who might want to step into this, who doesn't have the tools that I have. So that's why I stay in this zone. This is my power zone. If I'm going to get into a competition with another person, athletic competition, they say name the sport, I'm not going to say let's do an MMA fight, because I don't have the tools for that. That's not my power zone. That probably put me in an unfair position to lose. But if I'll say let's play basketball, or let's run 10 miles, or those are things that I'm pretty good at. So all you need to do is figure out, first of all, where are your power zones? Where do you have an unfair advantage over other people? And then how much time are you spending doing all you can to maximize yourself, your abilities, your exposure in doing those things in which you have the unfair advantage, so people can actually see you, find out about you, and you can take advantage of this unfairness is working for you. The biggest problem that many people have when you notice or you think there's something unfair working against you is not that you're wrong, is that if things are unfair against you where you are, you have just chosen to be in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place working with the wrong people. You just need to get the unfairness working for you. I told y'all many times how a new coach came in when I was a junior in college, not a guy who recruited me. He ended up kicking me out of the basketball program. It's not because I was a bad basketball player, and not necessarily because he was a bad coach. It's not really about his coaching ability why I ended up out of the program. It was just I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was unfair against me in that particular space, but I didn't look at it as, oh man, I'm a victim of the circumstance or a victim of this guy. I looked at it and said, okay, all I need to do is put myself in a different space where these same abilities that I have will put me at an unfair advantage instead of an unfair disadvantage. The disadvantage for me with that coach who ended up kicking me out was that he knew that I had played for the previous coach, and he kind of didn't want anybody who had played for the previous coach. He showed this in his actions by getting rid of a bunch of people who had. And I just happened to be in an unfair situation that worked against me. But then a year and a half later, I went to an exposure camp where there were a bunch of professional scouts and decision makers looking for young players who were athletic, who showed that they had some pro potential, had some abilities that would translate to professional basketball. And then the exact same player that I was right there at that exposure camp, same player I had been when I got kicked out of that gym in college, now it started working in my favor. So an unfair advantage or unfair disadvantage can be the exact same ability. Could be the exact same skills. It's just a matter of where you are utilizing it, where you're choosing to make it known. If you change where you're making something known, it changes the whole situation when it comes to what's fair and what's not. Or when it comes to whether something's, actually, let me change that. Things will always be unfair. It's just a matter of, is the unfairness working for you or is it working against you? It's a question you need to ask yourself. If unfairness is against you right now in any area of your life, what you need to do is find a new perspective, a new angle from which to approach the situation. Yesterday, I told you about Jay-Z, how he took the fact that he used to be a drug dealer, and that's a bad thing and it's illegal, but I utilize that mindset of being a drug dealer and the fact that I'm a hustler and a businessman, I'm an enterprising guy, this is the way that I think. I'm going to utilize this in a positive way, in a legit business, in an above board business, and I'm going to become known as just this great business mogul, even though I spent so many years as a illegal drug dealer. And that's exactly what he did. He flipped the script on the situation. When Jay-Z tried to become a rapper, he could have called it unfair that, and actually you could say it was unfair, maybe he even thought it was unfair that no record label wanted to sign Jay-Z. When he tried to get into the record game, out of the streets and into music, nobody wanted to sign him, even though he believed he was pretty good. Jay-Z could have said, you know what, this is really unfair. Fuck the music industry. I'm gonna just go back to dealing drugs. He could have did that. But what did he do instead? He turned it to his advantage that nobody wanted to sign him. How did he do that? He went and started his own record label with a couple of his business partners. And because they started their own label and put their own music out, they were able to maintain ownership of more of their music, to the point that Jay-Z spent many years, even still to this day, bragging in his music about the fact that he owns the majority of his music, which is one of the things that it lends credibility to the fact that he calls himself a hustler, that he calls himself a business mogul, and the fact that nowadays you got a lot of people trying to emulate that, wanting to own more of their work. He took the fact that something unfair was happening, nobody wanted to sign him, and said, okay, great, I'm going to sign myself and utilize that unfairness to my advantage. 50 Cent. Another guy I've done a Virtual Mentors episode on, and you can listen to all 5 of my Virtual Mentors episodes. That's on Jay-Z, Puff Daddy, 50 Cent, Dame Dash, and Michael Jordan in the Game Group membership. 50 Cent could have considered it pretty unfair that when he was set to release his first album, he got shot weeks before his first album came out. Damn near died, but he didn't die. But to compound the fact that he had gotten shot and damn near lost his life, was that his record label didn't want to deal with him anymore. They dropped him from the label, canceled the release of his first album. The very thing that was going to get him out of the streets, was putting the record out. Now he couldn't do it anymore because something from the streets stopped him from putting his music out. And now what is he going to do? He's recovering from 9 bullet wounds, can't put music out because nobody's going to sign him because of some street stuff, and he was trying to get out of the streets. That's a pretty unfair situation, I would think. So what did 50 Cent do though? Instead of just sitting around and complaining about how unfair it was, he turned the tables on the situation by playing up the story. He played up the fact that somebody had shot him. He played up the fact that he had been in the street. He played up the fact that everyone had turned their back on him. And he leveraged that energy into relaunching his career. And nowadays, again, I didn't have to explain to you who 50 Cent is, did I? We all know who he is because of the fact that he played up the very things that were unfair working against him and actually made them work for him. There's nothing stopping you from doing the same thing that he did, the same thing that Jay-Z did, the same thing that, as I mentioned, a guy like Steve Jobs did, the same things that I've done, is taking things that seem to be unfair, and then eventually, it may take some time, it's going to take some thinking, it's going to take some ingenuity on your part, it's going to take some mental toughness, it's going to take some energy and some discipline, eventually turning the tables on that unfair situation and making the same situation start working for you, simply because you changed your perspective and you changed the angle from which you approach the situation. This is what you actually need to be doing whenever you're facing an unfair situation that's working against you. Fighting through it and changing the situation doesn't necessarily mean you arguing with the basketball coach who just kicked you off the team and say, no, leave me on the team. Or saying, the record label who didn't sign you, Jay-Z saying, no, sign me. I'm not leaving this office till you sign me to a contract. Or 50 Cent saying, no, don't drop me from the label. They just shot me. I can't go back into the streets now. Please keep me on this label. You don't have to do it that way. That's one way that people try to fight through a situation. Things aren't working. It's unfair. So they just keep banging their head against the stone wall thinking that they're going to break the stone. No, it's going to break your head first. What you need to do instead of banging your head against the stone wall is finding a way to make the stone wall part of your work. Incorporate the stone wall into what you're doing so it can start working for you instead of having it work against you. This is how you fight through unfairness in life. Change the angle, change your perspective, change your approach, and the same things will start working for you rather than be working against you. Let's recap today's topic, which is your options when facing unfairness in life, defined as a lack of equality or a lack of justice. Number 1, accept the unfairness. Since we know that life is unfair by design, everybody's not going to have the same access. Not everybody has the same options. Not everybody is born under the same circumstances. When things are unfair, you can just let it be that way and figure out how to live with it. You can do that. Number 2, you can quit. Opt out of the game. Go find a place where things are more fair in your eyes, where everybody has to start from the same spot. Everything is 100% merit-based. These places do exist. They are fair, but they may be kind of hard to find. This is an option. This is kind of like participation trophy-ish, that you're looking for a way that everyone has an equal opportunity. The challenge of life is that there are very few places like this, so you're going to have to do a whole lot of hard work just trying to find it. But when you find it, you'll be happy, I suppose. And number 3, if the unfairness is against you, all you have to do is change the situation. And what you really need to think about is, if you think the unfairness means that it's working against you, why do you assume that? Why can't the unfairness work in your favor? Why can't you take the exact same situation that you're considering to be against you right now and make it work for you, like Jay-Z did? Nobody wants to sign me to a record deal. Perfect. Now I can own my own music. Now I can be my own boss. Now I could be a real hustler. Instead of becoming an employee to a record label, I could be an owner of a record label and just sign myself to a deal. Jay-Z just changed his perspective on the exact same circumstance that most other artists probably at that time just said, all right, this must mean that I'm not meant to be a rapper, and gave up on it or ended up doing nothing. 50 Cent said, all right, people shot me. I can't put a record out right now because no label wants to deal with me. That's a really unfair situation. All he did was change the perspective. Okay, yes, I got shot. Yes, I was a gangster in the street. Yes, no record label wants to deal with me. So what I'm going to do is take that very fact and I'm going to become like the Robin Hood of rap music. I'm going to put all this music out completely for free, call it a mixtape, flood the streets with this. And now everybody's going to be saying my name, buzzing so hard that the record label is going to come beating down my door and I'll be able to name my own prices. Nothing stopping you from using that same mental alchemy that these guys and many others have used when facing an unfair situation. All it changes is for you to change your perspective. Now, to access all those Virtual Mentors episodes that I told you about, the 4 episodes about reality and perspective and the way we look at situations, have them all categorized for you, access the 6 member-only courses available. All of that comes to you as part of the Game Group membership. And here's the thing. You can get in for free right now because I want you to experience it for yourself. I don't want you to just listen to me talk about it. So go to workonmygame.com/game group, access the game group, start your 2-week free game group trial, no strings attached whatsoever. See everything that's in there, experience it, utilize it, take advantage of all the shows that I put out here and consume as many of them as you possibly can. And you get access to everything else that's in there that I haven't even talked about yet. Just keep listening. I'll tell you about it right now. Work on your game. Dre all day.